The sun always rose gently over the farmer's small piece of land, painting the fields in hues of gold that stretched across the quiet village. His days began with the same rhythm, boots sinking into the damp soil, hands roughened by years of labor, eyes watching the earth with a mix of faith and worry. He was a man of 50, worn by time but not broken, with a spirit tied to the land like roots clinging firmly to the ground. Farming was not just his work, it was his life's pulse, passed down through generations. But in recent years, times had changed. The soil demanded more, while the markets gave less. Seeds had become a form of currency, guarded and sold for profit. Neighbors grew cautious, trading less, selling more. The farmer watched this shift with a heavy heart. He too could sell his seeds. He had plenty stored from years of careful saving. It would bring money, perhaps ease his family's worries, perhaps give them more comfort. And yet, every time he thought of turning seeds into coins, something in him resisted. He carried a quiet belief that seeds were more than commodities. To him, each seed was a beginning, a promise of tomorrow, a story waiting to sprout from the soil. He saw them as gifts of life, meant to be shared. But he was also a father and a husband, with responsibilities pressing down on him like the weight of a storm cloud. His wife, kind yet practical, often reminded him of the bills they needed to pay, the repairs the house demanded. His children, still young, asked for things he could not always provide. In those moments, the farmer felt torn, as if two voices lived within him, one urging him toward profit, the other whispering of kindness. Sometimes, when the conflict felt unbearable, he walked to the edge of his field, where an old oak tree stood. Beneath its shade, his elderly neighbor often sat, a man who once had been a strong farmer himself, now slowed by age but not by wisdom. The old man would watch the farmer's furrowed brow and quietly remind him that wealth is like water, it slips through our fingers if we clutch too tightly. Seeds, he said, were never meant to be caged by greed. They belonged to the cycle of giving, from earth to hand, from hand to earth again. Those words lingered in the farmer's mind, echoing through his evenings as he looked at the sacks of seeds in his barn. They were more than sacks of grain, they were possibilities. Yet the question remained, would he dare to give when the world around him demanded he sell? The decision came quietly, like a small stream breaking through dry earth. One morning, as the farmer walked to his barn, he looked at the sacks of seeds piled against the wooden walls. They seemed to stare back at him, asking whether they would be traded for coins or carried into the hands of others who needed them. He picked up one sack, heavier than his strength would allow without effort, and carried it into the village. The first person he met was a young neighbor, struggling with barren fields. Without hesitation, the farmer placed a handful of seeds in the young man's hands. The neighbor blinked in confusion, waiting for the price to be spoken, but none came. The farmer simply smiled and told him to plant them well. Word spread quickly, as whispers often do in small places. By the week's end, the farmer had given seeds to 3 families, each one reacting the same surprise, hesitation, then suspicion. Some wondered what he wanted in return, while others shook their heads at what they called foolishness. Even within his own home, questions arose. His wife looked at him with worry. She asked how they would manage without the money those seeds could have brought. His children, too young to understand, asked why he was giving away what others sold. The farmer, though touched by their concern, held to a quiet conviction he could not yet explain. He told them that seeds were like kindness. If hoarded, they do nothing, but if shared, they grow into something greater. His words did little to ease their worry, but they carried a truth that he could not deny. The skepticism from the village weighed heavily on him. At night, he wondered if he was reckless, if generosity was nothing but a dream in a world hardened by survival. Each doubt pressed down on him, like stones piled one over another. And yet, when he passed by the old oak tree, the elderly neighbor would remind him gently that every seed carries more than food, it carries hope. To give seeds is to give a chance at tomorrow, and such gifts cannot be measured in coins. The farmer clung to that wisdom, even as doubts tugged at his resolve. In the quiet of his fields, he planted not only for himself, but for the unseen harvest that might one day bloom in the hearts of those who received his gift. He did not know when, or if, his choice would bear fruit, but he knew he could not turn back. What began as a single act of giving was becoming a path he was destined to walk, whether the world understood it or not. Seasons passed, and the village slowly began to change in ways the farmer could scarcely have imagined. At first, nothing seemed different. The families who had received his seeds went about their days quietly, and the fields showed no immediate promise. But then, as spring gave way to summer, small shoots broke through the soil. They grew taller, greener, stronger than anyone expected. The seeds he had shared carried resilience, the kind born from years of his careful cultivation. Crops flourished where once the soil had been weak. Families who had known only worry now gathered harvests with smiles that had long been absent. Whispers of doubt turned into murmurs of gratitude. Neighbors who once shook their heads began to nod with respect. Some approached him shyly, unsure how to thank him, and others began imitating his gesture by sharing what little they had with each other. Slowly, almost invisibly, the village shifted from competition to community. Where suspicion once lived, trust began to take root. His wife noticed at first the way people greeted them differently, with warmth rather than reserve. She saw children from other families bringing small gifts of fruit to their home, tokens of thanks for the seeds that had saved their fields. Though she still worried about the coins they lacked, she could not ignore the glow of respect and kindness now surrounding her husband. His children, too, began to see their father not as a man giving things away, but as someone sowing goodness in the world. The farmer himself felt no pride, only peace. He had not sought recognition, only to remain true to what his heart whispered. Yet he found himself transformed, lighter somehow, as though the burden he once carried had been lifted. Under the oak tree, he told the old neighbor that he finally understood. Seeds were not just for soil, but for souls. They carried within them the lesson that life is not about holding tight to what we have, but about trusting that what we give will return to us in ways unseen. Years later, long after his hair had turned white and his steps had slowed, people still spoke of him. Children grew up hearing stories of the farmer who shared seeds, and in their own ways, they tried to live as he had given, trusting, planting hope wherever they could. His legacy was not written in wealth, but in the kindness that continued to ripple through the village like an endless harvest. And in the quiet of his final days, the farmer rested with a simple truth in his heart, that the smallest seed of generosity can grow into a forest of change. When we think of the farmer's choice, it invites us to reflect on our own lives. Each of us carries seeds not always in our hands, but in our words, actions, and kindness. What we choose to do with them matters. We can hoard them in fear, or we can scatter them with faith, trusting they will grow in ways we may never see. His story reminds us that the harvest of generosity is endless, and its fruits reach far beyond our own fields. If this story touched you, consider sharing it, leaving your thoughts below, and subscribing for more stories like this.